Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
And we are back. Welcome to the Monday Movie Show DVD and Blu-ray section. Coming up in this part of the show, we'll have our UK DVD and Blu-ray top 10, along with reviews of these movies.
Oscar-winning drama Argo. You have another drama of sorts, People Like Us. Another drama with comedy elements and music elements to it, Sapphires. Comedy film, Gambit, and thriller. It's not a horror film. Thriller, Sleep Tight.
As well as we will have at the end of the show our TV movie of the week. Let's go straight into DVD Blu-ray top 10 though, with number 10, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel.
I've still not seen this film.
You've still not seen this?
Nope, still not watched The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel.
It's gone back up into the top 10, I think, probably because there's been a lot of people have seen sort of British films recently, and this big thing sort of kicking them up again. It's a great family film that you can watch with a family of any age. More mature audiences probably sort of watching it with your parents and your grandparents, and it's that kind of film that you can just watch with them and enjoy with them, and you kind of all have the same mindset watching it. It's a fun, great family film. Number 9 in the top 10 is Looper.
Yeah, which we've said in week in, week out how much of a really good film it is, and it is. It's a really good film. Again, it's like when we were struggling with the UK box office top 10 when we're trying to say things for Les Miserables, etc. Don't know how much more we can say about Looper that hasn't already been said.
Anything more you can say about number 8, which is the Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Daniel Craig Bond box set?
No, we'll mention Skyfall a little bit later on in the chart, but I've not seen Casino Royale, and I've not seen Quantum of Solace. I'm not a Bond fan at all.
Yeah,
so
that's probably why you didn't get into Skyfall so much. Number 7, new entry for Frankenweenie,
which I quite enjoyed. I think it's still down to specifically the little girl, that psychopathic little girl. Every single time I see the name Frankenweenie or see a clip of that little girl, she cracks me up.
Mr. Whiskers.
Yeah, I love her. I think she's an awesome character. She wouldn't be able to sustain a film of all of her own, but a character in a film like this, it works really well. I'm just surprised it hasn't done as well as I thought it would have on DVD and Blu-ray. It's just I don't think parents think that it's good. It's sort of like suitable enough for younger children, which it's not, because it's a black and white sort of like horror animated film from Tim Burton. It is one of Tim Burton's better films of the last few years, because he's made some right stinkers over the last few years, and it's quite enjoyable.
I think it's kind of right where it should be, to be honest, although I'm kind of disappointed.
Well, I was expecting it to be slightly higher, if you look at the top 5 when we get into top 5, specifically the movie at number 2. I'm surprised the movie at number 2 got that high.
Well, I'm kind of disappointed though that it is behind the number 6 movie, which is Taken 2,
which is just awful. It's just a really, really bad film. There is nothing redeemable about this movie at all. The action set pieces don't work. It's just a boring step-by-step action film.
Number 5 is new entry for Hope Springs,
which you reviewed last week. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I knew you wouldn't have seen it. I just knew you wouldn't have.
It's not my cup of tea.
It's a film that is very much in tune with Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, that being at number 10. But this is not the kind of film that you really want to watch with your parents and your grandparents, because it is to do with the whole thing of a more mature couple trying to reignite their love life. And so covers that subject, which is the kind of uncomfortable moments that you will experience during the film if watching with parents or grandparents, dare I say. So this is probably one to give your parents or your grandparents to watch and make a quick exit and sort of leave for a few hours while it's being watched. Number 4 is also a new entry this week, Paranormal Activity 4.
Yeah, it's the first Paranormal Activity film not to go straight to number 1 in the DVD and in the cinema top 10.
I wonder why.
Because it's absolutely pathetically boring. The series has run its course 2 movies ago. It's just nothing interesting happens at all. The scares are just your typical bangs and pans dropping and stuff like that. There isn't anything inventive about this movie apart from the use of Kinect, which, with me being a gamer, I was picking that scene apart like mad. I was thinking, how the hell can you do that? That will not work. And they used that about 6 times during the film, so it shows you how inventive the movie is. It's just boring. The series has run its course. Just finish it.
Number 3 is Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted.
Again, it's another one of those films which I don't know what else more we can say about the film itself, apart from it's a really fun family film.
Yeah, pretty much. There's not anything more we can say other than if you haven't seen it, do, because surprisingly it's that good. Number 2, I'm not sure you've seen this one, highest new entry this week for Killing Them Softly.
Nope.
No. Which is it's a very good drama. I mean, I said this last week. It's essentially it's kind of like about hitmen, a film about men who happen to be hitmen, same way that Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is a film about men who happen to be spies. And it's about sort of a couple of hitmen who are sort of old, washed up, sort of retired, but still active in sort of hitting the world of hitmen and such. And it's quite a good performance from Brad Pitt, James Gandolfini in there as well. It's not as funny as it really should be, and even I don't mean comedy laugh out. I mean comedy as in dark black comedy because of the subject. But it's not as funny as I wanted it to be. But I still enjoyed it because of the performances. Which means that the number 1 film still at the top of the UK DVD and Blu-ray top 10, Skyfall.
Yeah, which I found it more boring the second time. I know everybody seems to shout at me for that, but I'm allowed an opinion, and that's my opinion. I'm not much of a Bond fan. It had interesting elements in the first time. The second time, I just found it slightly more pandering. I still love the cinematography. I think it looks it's a gorgeous film to look at times. It's just the annoying thing is the fact that they want Adele back to do the song for the next Bond film, which I really do hope they don't do that, because her song is really boring. It's a paint by numbers Adele song. It suits the film for its boring nature.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that, but I'm going to say that you're welcome to your opinion on the film, but you're wrong.
Nope, I'm right because it's my opinion, and if I believe that I'm right, I'm right.
No.
Yep.
We're going to take a quick break, after which we'll get straight into our first DVD and Blu-ray review.
Right, advert. What do I need to say in an advert? Well, I need to say that we're the Gamescast. I need to say that we're on Twitter at the Gamescast. I need to say we're on Facebook. I need to say we've got a website, thegamescast.com, and I need to say we're on YouTube. Oh yeah, and we're on this thing called Spreaker.com. Don't know where that came from. What else? That's probably it. Right, better record it. Oh, crap. That was 30 seconds. The Gamescast. Grown-up gamers talking about games. Allegedly.
And that's why you're wrong. So, let's go straight into our first review.
I'm confused. I'm really confused there. I don't know why I'm wrong, but evidently I'm supposedly wrong, even though I'm right. I'll go. It's directed by Ben Affleck, and it stars Ben Affleck, and it's set in 1979. And
it's produced by Ben Affleck.
Did he produce and direct it?
I think he was producing it as well. I'm sure it was. I'll double check it, but I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I know he directed it. I didn't know he produced it. Like I said, it's set in 1979, and the American embassy in Iran is invaded by these revolutionaries, these Iranian revolutionaries who want into the embassy themselves. And a few of the Americans who are inside there are captured and taken hostage. However, some of them manage to escape, and they escape to the Canadian ambassador, and the CIA is then eventually asked to come in, ordered them to come in anyway, to try and get them out of the country. They're trying to come up with an idea of how they're going to get them out of the country, and they ask Tony Mendes, who's played by Ben Affleck, to come up with some plans. The only idea he can come up with is to create this science fiction film called Argo, and send in a crew into Iran to try and get them as a crew, the people who have been captured, as a crew with themselves, so they can get them out of the country safely. Here's a clip.
Where was your passport issued?
Vancouver.
Where were you born?
Toronto.
Toronto. Canadians don't pronounce the T.
Some Comite guard is actually going to know that.
If you're detained for questioning, they will bring in someone who knows that. Yes. Mary, who are the last 3 prime ministers of Canada?
Trudeau, Pearson, and Diefenbaker.
What's your father's name?
Howard.
What's his occupation?
Fisherman.
Where were you born?
Halifax, Nova Scotia.
What's your date of birth?
February 21st, 1952.
Good. What's your job on the movie?
Producer.
Associate producer. What was the last movie you produced?
High and Dry.
Who paid for that?
CFTC.
What's your middle name? What's your middle name? What's your middle name?
Leon?
Shoot him. He's an American spy. Look, they're going to try to break you, okay? By trying to get you agitated. You have to know your resume back to front.
You really believe your little story is going to make a difference when there's a gun to our heads?
I think my story is the only thing between you and a gun to your head.
So evidently, Andy's found out that he did produce it as well. So very, very busy person on the film, wasn't he? Because not only did he direct it and star in it, he produced it. And like I said, the rest of the film is them trying to get these people who were captured to ruse as them being the production crew of this film itself to get them out of the country. Ben Affleck over the last few years has shown that he's adept at directing films. He was an actor who people thought his career was over because the movies that he did with Jennifer Lopez, which by the way she's in a film which we're going to review next week alongside Jason Statham. He just fell out. He fell out with the glitterati of America. He was sort of like really beloved after he did movies like Good Will Hunting, but then he fell into the sort of like romantic comedy kind of genre, and it didn't suit him whatsoever. And then he decided to take a back step, and he came back and he started directing. He did films like The Town, and he's done Argo, and Argo is definitely some of the best work Ben Affleck's ever done, whether it be on the directing side, whether it be on the production side, or even on the acting side, because he is now shown that he can do more than what he was capable of doing. Other actors in the movie include Bryan Cranston, Alan Arkin, and John Goodman. John Goodman seems to be everywhere, absolutely everywhere, along with Bryan Cranston. Both of those are really busy actors. I would not have liked to count how many films John Goodman did last year.
42.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's anywhere near that number. But yeah, everybody in this film are on point. The look of the film, it has a proper sort of like late 70s look. The look and style of how the movie is shot is really nice. The acting is fantastic. The storyline keeps you gripped and interested throughout because it adds scenes of humour in it as well, but doesn't go over the line with the humour. And the interaction between characters, etc., works brilliantly, and it deserved the amount of Oscars that it won. And it's just a really, really interestingly put together film, and definitely deserves the recognition it got.
I'm just going to add to that as well, because I think that one of the charms of this film is how it looks the piece. It's set during the early 1980s when the issues really happened, and it's because it's a true story, and it really does look it. From the opening shot of the old Warner Brothers intro, the old Warner Brothers title screen, to the end of it, it looks the part. There's been so much care and attention to detail taken with this film that you can't not help to feel like you're in that genre, you're in that time. It works so well. It really does.
It even down to the science fiction movie that they're making, it does feel like an old-fashioned, like Flash Gordon-esque kind of film, which I thought was really an interesting take. Instead of trying to do a sci-fi movie that was very serious, they decided to do a Flash Gordon-esque one, and that adds the little bit of humour into the film itself. But it's an interesting idea because it is based on a true story, and it's an interesting idea that they decided to do that to try and get them out of the country. That was the best idea that they could come up with, and I doubt anybody would have been able to pick it apart because it's just something really unique.
Yeah, it really is one of those you couldn't make it up stories. Let's go on to the next review, which is People Like Us, directed by Alex Kurtzman, who's one of the writers on the film as well. It stars Chris Pine as Sam, who is a man who works as he's basically like a kind of like a buyer and seller of if a company makes too much of a product or has a whole load of them left over in stock or something, doesn't sell sort of over like a Christmas period or something. He works for a company that will come in, buy all the stock off your hands, and then find someone to sell it on to in bulk, cheap, and sort of make a tiny profit on it. He's going about his everyday sort of normal thing. He gets a phone call from his mother, which he declines a couple of times because things do not seem to be going sort of well between them. When he gets back to home to his girlfriend, played by Olivia Wilde, she's there and tells him that the reason his mother was trying to call him and get in touch with him is to let him know that his father has actually died and passed away. He and her then go to visit his mother and see there for the funeral. They get there sort of a bit late and arrive late, where he meets up with his mother, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and sort of the strained relationship between them, and the whole thing of his relationship with his father wasn't brilliant. His relationship with his mother is not brilliant. Things do not seem to be going particularly well for him. And then he gets a call to go and visit a lawyer of his, who was a friend of his dad's, who gives him a sort of a bag which is his father's old shaving kit, but he finds something else inside and a note which leads him to a sort of an interesting discovery. Here's a clip.
Where did you get that?
My dad. $150,000. That he left to a woman whose kid is my... In theory, the kid is my nephew.
What? I don't understand. How could you have a nephew? You don't have any brothers or sisters.
I do now. At first, I think, well, she's his mistress. I mean, that makes complete sense to my father. But then I look at her. She has my father's eyes and his nose, and she...
Sam, how are you going to tell your mom?
Surprise! You won the golden ticket factory.
I mean, you have to tell her. I mean, she has to know the truth, and she's going to find out that he left them all this money.
Not if I don't give it to him.
No, you're not serious.
Yeah, I am very serious. It's $150,000.
I know.
That he left in his shaving kit for some alcoholic love child.
So the character that he's talking about there is the son of a woman played by Elizabeth Banks, who plays Frankie, who is essentially his half-sister from a sort of a extramarital relationship of his father's. And what happens is that Sam then sort of follows her around, sort of investigating her life, seeing what she's like, sort of gets himself ingratiated into her life a bit, and sort of meets her and pretends to be just a sort of another person who's actually at an AA meeting where she's there, and sort of strikes up sort of a friendship with this woman, and learns about her and her son and all. It's a film which has it suffers from a couple of issues. One of them being the running time of the film, which is 1 hour and 54 minutes. I don't care what you're doing, what you're watching the film, that's far too long for this film. It really is. It needs to be a good 20 minutes shorter to have much more of an impact with things that happen in the film. One of the things as well, though, that is the cause of that running time is the fact of that the character gets into a situation where you have these films where a person comes into something, a person meets someone who they're going to tell something, they're going to say something to them, and then they don't. And there's a chance for them to say something, and they don't. And there's a chance for them to say something, and they don't. And I'm going to say something, and I don't. And it's just like, come on, just suck it up. Say something. Don't just let it go on and on and on, because then it just gets repetitive, and you kind of... the central character who you're supposed to be sort of caring about, you don't care about, because you're just a wuss and annoying. There are good performances in this. There's a scene, I was reading into the film afterwards, there's a scene where Michelle Pfeiffer actually slaps Chris Pine's character. And Michelle Pfeiffer apparently didn't want it left in the film. She fought to try and get it taken out of the film because she thought that it made her character sort of unlikable and hard to sort of win back in the views of the audience. I think that's completely wrong. I think that it's a very telling scene of the relationship between her and Chris Pine as her son. It's fairly well written. It's fairly well directed. It just meanders on a bit for that kind of not the last 20 minutes, but the 20 minutes before the last 20 minutes. If that had been trimmed, cut out, redone, this would have been a much better film. It's an okay film. It's too long, and I think anyone who watches it will find that problem. They get about 3/4 of the way through, and they're going, "Oh, end already." Then the ending starts, and there's another 20 minutes. And I didn't have a problem with the casting. I thought the cast was all perfectly fine. I thought Elizabeth Banks was really good in it, and she's kind of a hit and a miss actress for me in a lot of things. I thought Chris Pine was really good in it. Olivia Wilde playing his girlfriend is a little bit wasted. Missed opportunity to have her in it a bit more and do a bit more. But overall, I thought this was okay.
Yeah, I had two problems with it. The time, which you've already just said there, it's just a too long film. And during the movie, I was constantly screaming at, why don't you just bloody tell her that you're related? It was just getting so annoying that you want to just tell her, you stupid idiot. The direction was constantly going away from that, and you're just going, will you just tell her? And this film could be over like half an hour ago, rather than you just keep on going on about it.
And the thing that's really annoying as well is that when the truth does finally come out, it's only because things get to a really uncomfortable situation, which feels kind of forced in the story. If that wasn't there, it would have been a lot better. And the reason that's there is because of the fact that it's allowed to stretch out for too long.
Yeah, it's just way too long.
But other than that, I thought it was a good drama. I thought it was a good film.
Sorry, coughing there, but I'm sorry. I should have muted my mic, but I didn't. Because I'm doing the next film, which is The Sapphires. It's directed by Wayne Blair. And it's set in Australia in 1968. And there is war going on. And in Australia, the Aboriginal kind of people, or blacks as they're known as, were having a major hard time of it. This was when Martha Luther King, I was going to say. Martha?
Martha.
Yeah. I can't believe it. Might be his wife. But, I know. But it is said during the time when blacks were still having major troubles in trying to even get anything like a vote or whatever. And in Australia, especially with the Aboriginal people, they were badly treated by the whites, even worse. And it proves it that it centres around four sisters, Gail, Julie, Kay and Cynthia. And they love to sing. They sing traditional Aboriginal music, but then they decide to go and go to this talent show where they are the best by far at this talent show, but this person who plays the guitar and sings majorly out of key wins because she's white and these kids are black. There's a character played by Chris O'Dowd who plays Dave. He's sort of like he's not a talent scout of sorts. He's a compere. He hosts these shows and he sees potential in these girls. And he comes up with an idea that they see an ad in the newspaper where you've got these loads of shows where people are taken to Vietnam or whatever, the troops, to entertain the troops. And they come up with the idea of trying to audition for this show. So these sisters are taken over to Vietnam to sing for the troops. And they do manage to successfully sing in front of this panel. And they said, yeah, go over to Vietnam and sing for the troops. And the rest of the film, it centres around these four sisters making it big, turning themselves from the band that they are into the Sapphires and singing, instead of their traditional music which they like and country music which they're obsessed with, they're singing sort of more like soul music. Here's a clip.
Nah, no way. If you think I'm going to let you girls gallivant around Melbourne up to no good, Mum.
Maybe he's right. Now maybe this is a chance of a lifetime.
What's wrong with your life now?
Being treated like dogs by the gubs in town every single day. That's not the life I was born for. I'm destined for fame.
We can stay at Uncle Ed's.
Move over, Aretha. Stand back, Wilson Pickett. Pack your bags, Supremes, because there are some new cats in town. And those cats go by the name of the Cruncherberry Currans. The Cummerundans. We're going to have to think about your name.
And like I said, the rest of the film is just centered around these girls who are making it bigger and bigger, and in a way, a film gets to them a little bit, but not the kind of way you would expect it in this kind of film. Things like, it's got a very similar tone to movies like That Thing You Do, the directorial debut by Tom Hanks, which is, it's sort of like a slight little guilty pleasure of mine. I don't mind that movie. But it is a drama with musical elements to it, and tiny little bit comedy here and there from Chris O'Dowd, because he plays the typical Irish drunk. Stereotypical, if you might say it, because he is an Irish actor, and they'll probably think that all Irish actors are drunks, or everybody from Ireland are drunks anyway. But the movie itself...
Not entirely wrong, though.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that, because I don't think you'll be allowed back on it following the nerd if that's the case. The film itself, it follows the typical blueprint of this kind of movie. It doesn't try to deviate away from it. There are some decent musical numbers in the movie. The girls can really do sing. They've got some fantastic voices on them. Chris O'Dowd, like I said, he adds the comedy element to the movie itself. It adds a drama part to it when you get to the last 35-40 minutes because of the Vietnam War, etc. that's going on. It's like I said, it's a very paint-by-numbers movie. It's on for about an hour and 45 minutes, and there are times when it does stretch the running time a little bit. It just becomes a bit meandering, but it's an extremely predictable movie. That's not to say it's not a bad film, because it's not. It's quite an entertaining movie, because the musical numbers, like I said, are done really well, and the girls can sing. It's just, there isn't anything overly special about this movie. I think... Andy was trying to... I think I'm on the same kind of standpoint as Andy was with Broken City. It's got that feel that you expect maybe a little bit more, but I don't know where you could have gotten more out of the movie without it either going too schmaltzy with the musical numbers or going too drama. It's just, I think the movie where it's set is probably the best it could attain to, and that's it. It's quite a decent average film, a Saturday afternoon kind of movie.
I mean, I was going to try and watch this, but I just wasn't able to actually see it. So, I mean, the thing from what I hear is, I do hear that it's good, but just that it's
Saturday
average.
Afternoon kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The kind of film that you would see ITV or Channel 5 player on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, so I don't know that. I mean, it's because it's being musical as well. I'm not a fan of musical things. Gambit, which is directed by Michael Hoffman. It's written by the Coen brothers, Ethan and Joel Coen, and it stars I forget his name, Colin Firth. Yes, Colin Firth as Harry Dean, who is the main character. Is a guy who works in a company set in the UK, so he works in London in a company for Lionel, a man played by Alan Rickman, who is essentially, he's a horrible, rotten boss who is just completely mistreats his staff, negligent of them, he's not very nice. And the thing is that Harry decided that he is going to get his own back on his boss, who is an art fan and loves a good collection of things, including Monet artwork. And what he's going to do is to rip him off by setting him up with a fake Monet and pass it off as being the real thing. In order to do this, what he does is brings in a character of PJ Posnowski, played by Cameron Diaz, who so happens to be the real PJ Posnowski because of the fact that she is the granddaughter of someone who was in the Vietnam War, where supposedly one of these pictures really did exist and disappeared, so sort of linking it in that she would have supposedly have inherited it after her grandfather stole it during the war. The whole thing is all sort of a twisty and turny sort of thing when he brings her to London so he can then get her to talk through the whole thing of the painting and try and make the sell to Lionel and convince him that it is the real thing. Here's a clip.
You know, you don't have to Miss Posnowski me. Now, you can call me PJ or Jammies, that's my rodeo handle, or Philomena, which is my real name.
Well, thank you, PJ. And you may call me Lionel. Let's hope that doing business on a first-name basis will be conducive to plain speaking and clear understanding.
Amen to that, Lionel. Well then, let's get to it. I want 12 million pounds for this here picture. That's 6,000 tons if I've done my math right. And maybe you'd like to throw in a nice 4x4 to haul it off in. With an auto tranny, a CD deck, and graduated tin on the windshields. Please and thank you.
Well, that's marvelous. And tell me, PJ, what makes you think this painting is worth 12 million pounds?
Well, Lionel, first off, it's oil. Ain't it, Harry?
Indeed, the medium is oil, and its provenance is promising.
So then there's this whole thing of that there's a sort of a gag where he is essentially going to be fired and a replacement brought in who's played by Stanley Tucci, the ever great Stanley Tucci, who in this is sort of wasted, as is a lot of the talent in this film. Here's the thing with it. It's written by the Coen brothers, who recently have had a sort of an issue with their writing and their works lately. In the same way, this is a remake similar to how I forget the name of the film. I have to look it up. There's a film which was a remake with Tom Hanks in it, which is a remake of The Lady Killers. Now, the thing with The Lady Killers is it was a it was kind of witty written film, and it had a witty performance. No, it wasn't, and it had a witty performance. I haven't had enough to drink yet, or I've had too much. I'm not sure. You're distracting me now. It was Tom Hanks gave a really witty performance in it, but didn't work. It was an awful film. The writing was witty, but just didn't work. The thing is, it's the same problem here. The writing is witty. It kind of doesn't work. The performance from Colin Firth is very... I mean, Colin Firth can be a good comedy-timed actor, but just not in this. He's awful in this at points where you're kind of watching it and it's kind of excruciatingly bad in that you're like... It's that kind of 70s style humour, almost kind of like a Benny Hill sort of thing, but just done really poorly because it's not done with a British wit, it's done with an American wit. Cameron Diaz in it is just sort of weird in the film. Alan Rickman is one of the few sort of laughs that it did get from me, this sort of sniggers. I mean, there's one of them where he genuinely is doing a completely full nude scene in the film, and it's kind of, but it's been done before with him standing in front of a table with a glass table, completely see-through glass table, with an ornament on front of it, standing on top of it, with him standing behind it, completely placed in position of his gentleman parts. So I mean, again, as we already said earlier with films tonight, nothing here that you haven't seen before with things like the Austin Powers movies, and I'm not making a sort of dry joke there as well. It's just unfortunately not funny. It's not really captivating for a film, and it's not especially long. I mean, it's the running time on the film is only 8 to 9 minutes, so it's not an hour and a half. Bearing in mind, obviously, that's including credits as well. It doesn't take enough risks with the subject and with the story that it should to get a few laughs. Because I mean, there's a bit in it later on which involves breaking into a heavily secured mansion, which has as its security feature, when you break the beams and trigger the alarm system, instead of an alarm going off, a lion is released into the property. So you're there, sort of standing there, should be an alarm going off, but there's not. You turn around and there's a lion. I mean, come on, how is that not funny? It just is in this film. It's unfortunate. It just doesn't work.
Oh well. Final film, Sleep Tight. It's directed by Juan Balaguero, who worked alongside Paco Plaza on the Rec series. He decided to step down from Rec 3, let Paco Plaza do Rec 3, and he decided to go off and do Sleep Tight. It was one of the hits of last year's Fright Fest, and it stars Luis Souza, who plays Caesar, and Marta Etura, who plays Clara. And Caesar is a sort of like a janitor of sorts in this huge, massive apartment complex area. He's very well liked by most people in there, apart from the owner of this apartment complex, who hates him, trying to find any kind of reason to fire him. Caesar has a problem with time. His mother is in hospital. He takes long lunch breaks, etc. But he's liked by most people, especially Clara. And there's also an old woman in this building that has these dogs, and she really likes him as well. And his day-to-day life is just looking after this apartment complex and getting on with the people in there. He has a dark side to him, though. During the night, he likes to creep into Clara's bedroom, hide under a bed, and start to do things to Clara. I'm not going to go into detail of what. There's a little girl who lives across the landing from Clara, and she sees what Caesar is up to. So she sort of like decides to bribe him with things like money and adult DVDs for some reason. However, like I said, Caesar decides to take things way too far. And the movie itself plays a bit like a couple of years ago, Jeffrey Dean Morgan starred in a movie called The Resident. And it's not like this creepy thing where the landlord of this apartment complex gets too ingratiated in somebody who lives in there and starts to push the boundaries between like friendship and a more extreme side of it. This is better than The Resident because it has a more creepier feel. The Resident is a Hammer movie. This one, it has a more creepier feel because what Juan Balaguerro does is, instead of going too far over the top, because he could have went into the major extremities of the movie, he does touch on that kind of thing, but doesn't push it beyond the line, because if it did, the film itself just wouldn't work. It adds a more creepier feel when you're left to your imagination some elements of the movie itself. Like I said, Caesar is a kind of character you would never expect to do that kind of thing, but it makes it more interesting that you don't expect him to do that. And when you see the first scene where he is hiding under the bed, about 25-30 minutes of the film, you're thinking, really? He's that kind of character? And he is, and the extremes that he goes to is quite far. The movie itself is creepy at times, but I would have liked it if Juan Balaguerro had it this sort of like even more creepiness like the Rec series, Rec 1 and 2, because those films brought something to the zombie genre that it needed, and it doesn't bring anything new to this kind of film, this thriller, but it's still a quite chilling movie at times, and the acting is fantastic. It's quite an enjoyable film.
So we have our TV movie of the week, which before we started the show, Stuart was going through his choices, and we had a sort of a conflict of interest when he pointed them out. Do you want to go through them just now? What's the two films, first of all?
Well, I've got one, and you've got one, which is a rare thing. I've got
one because you pointed it out to me. If you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have had it.
Yeah, it's sort of like a fight here between this, because the one I've got is Shaun of the Dead, which is getting shown on ITV2 for probably like the millionth time at 9 o'clock on Friday the 8th of March. And then I told Andy about another one.
Just so coincidentally happens to be the same exact time as Serenity is on ITV4.
Yeah, so we couldn't decide which one to choose. I chose Shaun of the Dead because even though it's been shown for the millionth time, Shaun of the Dead is one of the best British films of the last 10 years, in my opinion. It's become such an iconic comedy horror film, zombie rom-com, that every single time it's on, I watch it and I love it. I quote lines from it. It is such a good film, a part of the Cornetto trilogy, which the last one is out at the end of this year.
I mean, with Serenity, the thing is as well, I've got two words for you: Joss Whedon.
Yeah, that makes any geek happy. The name Joss Whedon.
And I mean, there'll be people who won't realise that it's him, because I mean, there are people who won't know who Joss Whedon is until the Avengers came out. So if they haven't seen it, they should check out. It's true.
Yeah, I know, but how dare they?
How dare me? Okay. No. Until they had seen the Avengers, people wouldn't have been aware of him. So if they are in those people who've seen the Avengers, absolutely loved it, loved Joss Whedon's work, and are interested in seeing the stuff that he did before that, namely Serenity, which is the spin-off movie from a one-season show called Firefly, which you don't need to have seen in order to see the film, then check it out, because it's brilliant and it's fantastic, and it's Joss Whedon and it's funny as well.
Yep.
That's it for this week. Thank you for tuning in to us live, those of you did. Thank you to everyone else listening to us on iTunes, on Spreaker later on, or listening through YouTube. Couple of shout-outs there. We have the podgodsnetwork.com, followingthenerd.com, who have their show on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock. Lolacourse.co.uk, which is our friend Bounty, who does a show on Fridays at 11. They're on a break at the moment, but they are coming back for a sort of end of series special in April. I think it's April the 12th, something like that. Yep. And we have also thegamescast.com. Is it .com? .co.uk? Yeah, .com. Who do their show on Friday nights at 9 o'clock, all about gaming. Phil, Duncan, and Paul. So the three of them. And also then you've got From Page 2 Screen, which is the number 2 screen.com, which is another show you do on Sunday nights, is it?
Once every, it's for 3 weeks and then there's a break of a week. It's strange. The schedule for that has changed now, so yeah. So
feel free to check them out. They're sort of our friends or similar pages that we do have sort of do things on their shows every now and again, and vice versa. So feel free to check them out and have a look at them. So until next week, when we'll be looking through some of the latest films then, and I will be doing my review of Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. Movie of the week this week?
Oh, that's a really hard one.
What should we leave them with?
You'll not get to see The Bear because it's on limited release anyway, and I do not recommend Hansel and Gretel. I would have to go with Argo on DVD and Blu-ray.
I'm definitely going to say Argo as well on DVD and Blu-ray. I am going to say though, if you like very meticulous filming and very dark filming, and you do like that sort of thing, I mean, check out the trailer because it's a weird trailer and it's a weird film. But Stoker is a very interesting film. It is a very artistic film, so you have to have that mindset to see it. But probably then overall Argo, which of course is the Academy Award winning film, so check that out too if you haven't already seen it. So until next Monday at 7:30, we will see you then. Good night.
Bye bye.